Hi guys, and welcome back to Together War Journey. My name is Jeanette, and in today's episode, are weeds really weeds? Okay guys, let's talk weeds. Weeds. Right, so we're not talking about the weeds, we're talking about the weeds that are actually in the garden. Mind you, marijuana does grow in the garden, can't deny that. However, we're talking about the plants that are not valued. Now, Merriam-Webster defines weed as a plant that's not valued in the garden, which is so true because I totally agree with her on that one. Let's take the dandelion, for example. I don't have any dandelions in my garden, but this weed that Australia calls it a weed is actually highly beneficial for the human body. The dandelion tea is highly beneficial, has a broad range of benefits for the human body, and yet we call this a weed. The yellow flowers that it has on the weed attracts the bees. The bees then pollinate my beautiful tomato plant and then gives me fruit that I can eat. So as much as they think that is a weed, it really isn't. Some countries even call my borage a weed. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got some borage growing there, and that's because it self-seeds and it continuously self-seeds, and therefore it will always grow every season. I think that's phenomenal. Why don't we have more self-seeding stuff? So we have chives as well. These chives can technically, I don't know if people want to call it a weed, but it is grown everywhere in this garden because I don't cut off the flowers, therefore it self-seeds everywhere. And then it's just, I found chives in the back, down the back of the garden. So this is actually really good. Chives again, the bees love these flowers. These flowers were great for the bees, which is going to give me pollination to the plants that you want to grow in your garden. But only that, you have to look and wonder why. Why is this particular plant that's in the garden that is ferociously growing in your garden and surviving and thriving? Why is it? Is it because it likes that kind of pH level? Is it too acidic? Does it like acidic areas? Does it like alkaline areas? I know that my area up in my block is going to be alkaline because of all the limestone. Again, like I spoke about this briefly in a previous video about Geoff Lawton and watching one of his videos regarding looking at the root system of the so-called weeds. Because when you look at a root system, it's like, is it hair nested or is it taproot? So this is hair nested, right? And it's because the ground, plant that one back in. It's obviously garlic. The plant around this area, the soil around this area is loose. So therefore we have that. Let's bury that garlic back in there. So therefore we have these kind of plants living in this kind of area. And if you have a taproot, it shows that the ground that you're on is very dense, which I find a lot of those kind of plants in my block because they're growing naturally. And you think, okay, fine. What is these taproots doing to my garden? Well, they're trying to aerate the soil, trying to get some soil down, air into the ground. That's what taproots do, right? When it's hair nested, oh wait, pick up that garlic. Let's put that garlic back in there, let it grow. So when the soil is loose, it's going to attract plants with their hair nest to help keep the soil together. Then you've got to find out as well. So now we've spoken about the roots of the weed, of the so-called weed, and then we're looking at why they're thriving there, the pH level. But also look at what type is it? I mean, I'm not too sure what this is, but this is everywhere in this garden. I'll let this garden pretty much just grow naturally. This garden was previously for me to plant what I needed to plant here and then take it up to my block. So this is why I have dragon fruit there. So with the dragon fruit, I planted some companion plants, which was borage and chives. I haven't really touched this garden since planting all these things, and you just look at it, it looks like a little forest. It's great, it's phenomenal. The chives have just thrived and they've grown extra. My aloe vera has also grown, and I'm going to get a lot more aloe vera as well. The dragon fruit is loving it because it's got companion plants, and the borage is great. And I have all this ground cover that I've never planted in there. So is that a weed? Do we know for sure that that's a weed? But at the moment it's beneficial for my garden because it's providing ground cover. Ground cover is providing the soil to be, let me plant that chive back in. The soil is providing nutrients for my plants, like the dragon fruit. It's also providing a house for the insects. It's providing food for the birds. The birds are beneficial insects that you're bringing into the garden. These are all the good stuff that you need to know about when you're gardening as well. Let it grow wild for a little bit. If it gets out of hand, obviously you need to do something about it. Or if you have a plant in there that's killing other plants and they're not actually growing together, then get rid of it, because obviously you don't want something that's going to kill your plants. You want something that's going to help with the growth and with giving it nutrients, giving the soil nutrients and the plants nutrients and food for the birds and home for the insects. So you've got to think about it. Is a weed really a weed? I mean, I don't know, I can't remember if I said this, but the borage, love borage here, apparently is a weed in other countries. But is it really a weed? It's a self-seeding plant, and I have areas here that's still empty, full of sand, that, you know, some weeds can actually grow and thrive in there, and then it keeps my gardening issues down. So this is self-sustainable. This is what we wanted, right? A self-sustainable garden. So let it be self-sustainable. Let nature do its thing. If you do find weeds and you don't want them in your garden, you want one of those pristine gardens that you only want to plant in there, then please don't spray. Because when you spray, you put chemicals on those flowers. When you put chemicals on those flowers, the bees will come in, they die from those chemicals. So we don't want that. We want more bees. Bees, bees, bees. More bees, more plants, more food. And the price of tomatoes nowadays is getting astronomical. So grow it yourself, it's cheaper. And you get a whole bunch of tomatoes, you get a whole bunch of silver beet, you get a whole bunch of zucchini or anything that you want to grow. Grow it. I love chives. I have an abundance of chives now. What else do I have in here? Mum's growing some yams, Chinese yams. So she's got that growing in there, and got lots of chives. Got aloe vera. I've got my borage. I've taken a lot of the plants out from this garden and moved them up to my block. So I have a pineapple as well in the back there. I'm still waiting for it to fruit. So I did a test thing with that pineapple, by the way, guys. Let me see if I have a look. It's behind my potato plant, I don't know if you can see it, but it's in the back there. So I read that if you cut the top of the pineapple off, plant it, a couple of years, it'll give you fruit. 4 years later, I'm still waiting for it to fruit. So we'll see. But yeah, don't be too quick to take out weeds in your garden, guys. They do help. And it gets frustrating when you see people like, they go, oh, I've got so many weeds in my garden. It's like, well, let them grow. They're not doing you any harm. They're not doing the plants any harm. Let them grow. Let them be where they need to be. Another way you can try and get rid of the weeds is to introduce other plants in the garden that's going to not give them room to give the weeds to grow. So if you want, say, a specific ground cover, and you don't particularly want something like this in your garden, then go out there and get another ground cover, and you'll see these, and you'll see these slowly die off. There are ways of getting rid of your weeds if you don't want them being there. But I'm like, let it be. If it's not doing me any harm, it's not doing my plants any harm, let's be natural. Let nature do its thing.